Hello everyone. Our story begins in a beautiful kingdom, nestled amongst rolling green hills and sparkling rivers, where a magnificent castle stood proud and tall. It was a happy kingdom, ruled by a kind king and a gentle queen who loved their people dearly. Yet amidst all this joy, they carried a quiet wish, a gentle longing deep within their hearts. More than anything else in the world, they wished for a child. Each passing season, be it spring with its hopeful blossoms, summer's fullness, autumn's fiery hues, or winter's soft blanket, deepened this yearning. They would often walk together, a quiet affection between them, observing the world's cycles, their hope for a child a constant gentle prayer. The royal nursery, though beautifully prepared, held an empty cradle, a poignant symbol of their unfulfilled dream, even as they sought wisdom and blessings from afar. And then, one glorious spring morning, when the birds sang their sweetest songs, a wave of pure joy swept through the castle. Their long-cherished wish was to be granted. The queen was expecting a child. The king, overjoyed, declared celebrations throughout the land. Royal heralds spread the news, and banners and flowers adorned every corner of the kingdom, as all shared in their ruler's profound happiness. In the quiet anticipation of the months that followed, the king and queen would spend tender moments together, dreaming of the little one soon to arrive. At last, the most wonderful day dawned. A beautiful, healthy baby girl was born, with eyes as bright as stars and hair like spun gold. They named her Briar Rose, for she was as lovely as the most precious flower. Their hearts overflowed with a love they had longed to give. Oh, what a celebration was planned! The king and queen decided to hold a magnificent christening feast for their precious daughter, inviting nobles and esteemed guests from far and wide to share in their boundless joy. Invitations were dispatched by swift messengers, carrying the happy tidings across the lands. Most importantly, the king and queen invited the wise women of the realm, special magical figures, each possessing unique gifts and ancient wisdom, hoping they would bestow their blessings upon little Briar Rose. The grand hall of the castle was a breathtaking sight, adorned with flowers and tapestries, the tables groaning under the weight of the most delicious foods imaginable, while minstrels played lively tunes and jesters brought laughter to all. At the heart of it all, radiant with happiness, sat the king and queen, with baby Briar Rose in her cradle beside them. The king proudly toasted his daughter, and the whole assembly cheered in shared delight. One by one, 11 of the invited wise women arrived, each greeted with great respect and led to a place of honor, with special golden plates and jeweled goblets set before them, a testament to the esteem in which they were held. After the grand feast, the moment arrived for the gifts. The first wise woman, robed in sky blue, approached the cradle and with a warm smile, bestowed upon Briar Rose the gift of exquisite beauty, a gentle golden light shimmering around the infant. The second wise woman, her eyes holding the wisdom of ancient forests, gifted the princess with virtue, that her heart might always be pure and her spirit noble, accompanied by a soft green light. The third, carrying a silver lute, gifted Briar Rose with a love for song and music, her blessing marked by a cascade of light like shimmering musical notes. And so it continued, gift after wonderful gift, resilience and wisdom from one, grace and tranquility from another, and from a third, a blessing of wit, courage, and vivacity, each accompanied by its own unique, beautiful, magical light. With 11 such precious blessings bestowed, an array of soft, colorful lights hovered above the cradle. The king and queen, their hearts swelling with gratitude, felt assured their daughter was destined for a life of unparalleled joy. But just as the last gift was given, a sudden chill swept the hall. The grand doors creaked open, and a shadowy figure appeared, silencing the joyful chatter and music. Stepping into the light was the 12th wise woman, much older, her face etched with profound sadness and a flicker of anger. She had been overlooked, forgotten in the invitations, a terrible oversight that now filled the king and queen with dawning realization and dread. She walked slowly, her staff tapping ominously, her gaze fixed on the royal couple. The festive air evaporated, replaced by a heavy, anxious silence as she reached the high table, her displeasure palpable. The king, his face etched with apology, rose to welcome her, attempting to soothe her wounded pride with earnest words and offers of a seat. But the uninvited wise woman seemed unmoved, her stern gaze unwavering. With a tap of her staff that resonated through the hall, she silenced the king. It was clear she had not come to celebrate, but to deliver a reckoning for the insult she felt so keenly. Her voice, low and chilling, cut through the silence, acknowledging her exclusion. As the queen began a desperate plea for mercy, the wise woman ignored her, a dark aura beginning to gather around her as she focused on the innocent, sleeping princess. Then, raising her voice in grim pronouncement, she delivered her terrible gift. On her 15th birthday, she cried, the princess shall prick her finger upon the spindle of a spinning wheel, and in that very moment, she shall fall down, as if lifeless. A cry of horror erupted. The queen collapsed, sobbing into the king's arms, who held her, pale and trembling with anguish. As abruptly as she had arrived, the slighted wise woman turned and swept out of the hall, the great doors slamming shut behind her with a resounding boom, leaving devastation in her wake. The joy of the christening was shattered. All hope seemed lost as the king and queen gazed upon their innocent daughter, her future now overshadowed by a terrible, seemingly inescapable doom. For a long time, only sorrow filled the hall. But then, the very last of the invited wise women, one with kind, compassionate eyes robed in calming lavender, stepped forward, her gentle presence offering a fragile ray of hope. She spoke with empathy, acknowledging the harshness of the curse, her gaze tender upon the sleeping Briar Rose as the king and queen looked towards her with desperate, pleading eyes. "Alas," she said, a soft silver blue light beginning to glow from her hands. "I cannot completely undo the curse. Your daughter shall indeed prick her finger. However, she shall not die." Instead, Briar Rose would fall into a deep, profound sleep, a slumber to last 100 years. A gasp of disbelief and tentative relief went through the room, her words accompanied by a protective, shimmering light enveloping the cradle. And after that long century, the wise woman foretold, a king's son would come, and with his presence, awaken her, breaking the spell. The light around the cradle glowed brightly, then faded, leaving a sense of peace. The king and queen, overwhelmed with gratitude, thanked her profusely for turning the darkest night into a distant dawn. The kind wise woman, with a gentle smile, then departed with her sisters, leaving behind a court shaken, but no longer entirely broken. A glimmer of hope remained. In the days that followed, the king could not simply wait for fate. He paced his council chamber, consulted ancient scrolls in his library late into the night, desperate to find a way to protect his beloved daughter from the Spindle's prick. At last, he made a decision. A royal decree was issued. Every spinning wheel, every spindle in the entire kingdom was to be surrendered and destroyed. If there were no spindles, surely the prophecy could not be fulfilled. And so, the king's command was proclaimed. Throughout the land, people reluctantly brought forth their spinning equipment. Guards collected them, and soon great piles of wheels and spindles were systematically broken apart. The king himself oversaw the destruction by a massive bonfire. With every spindle consumed by the flames, he felt a small measure of hope that he could outwit fate. The queen watched anxiously, praying this desperate measure would be enough to save their daughter. The castle, too, was meticulously searched from its highest attics to its deepest storerooms. And so, the years began to pass. Princess Briar Rose grew, blissfully unaware of the shadow over her future, in a kingdom now seemingly free of the offending object. As the years mounted, the king and queen would often look out over their peaceful kingdom, a silent, shared hope in their weary eyes. 15 years had passed. The castle stood strong and secure, an illusion of perfect safety prevailing at Princess Briar Rose, now on the cusp of womanhood, was a vision of radiant beauty and innocent joy, whether chasing butterflies in the blooming gardens or lost in the world of poetry in the sunlit library, and her fingers danced over the harp strings, filling the castle with sweet melodies. She moved with grace. Her parents watched, their hearts full, yet always with that unspoken apprehension. Her gentle touch on a dew-kissed rose petal in the garden seemed to reflect her own delicate beauty, and her very name, Briar Rose. Preparations for her 15th birthday feast were in full swing. The Queen oversaw the creation of a magnificent sky blue gown, while in the kitchens, the head cook crafted an extravagant cake. Briar Rose herself, after a day of happy camaraderie with friends, anticipated the celebration with innocent excitement. On the eve of the fateful day, she knelt in peaceful prayer, moonlight bathing her room. And as dawn broke on her 15th birthday, she awoke with a joyful heart, rushing to the window to greet the sunny morning, her spirit light and carefree. As fate would have it, the King and Queen, their smiles strained with hidden worry, departed on a prearranged short trip that morning, leaving Briar Rose to her own devices until the evening's grand feast. She waved them off, a little wistful. Left alone, a restless curiosity stirred within her. She wandered through familiar, grand rooms, but today they didn't hold her usual interest. She longed for something new, something undiscovered within the castle walls. Her explorations led her to an older, forgotten wing, dusty and silent, and there, at the end of a long, dim hallway, almost hidden in shadow, she spied a small, ancient wooden door, one she had never noticed before. Curiosity overcoming any hesitation, she approached the mysterious door. It creaked open to reveal a narrow, winding stone staircase spiraling upwards into darkness. Undaunted, she began to climb into the forgotten tower. As she climbed higher into the oppressive gloom, a faint, rhythmic whirring sound, strange and unfamiliar, began to reach her ears, piquing her interest even more. At the very top, she found another small ancient door, the mysterious sound clearly coming from within. With her heart pounding with anticipation and a touch of trepidation, she pushed it open. Inside the small, circular, dusty room lit by a single grimy window sat a very old woman, hunched over a curious wooden contraption, a spinning wheel, its rhythmic whir the sound Briar Rose had followed. The princess stood in the doorway, utterly captivated, having never seen such a thing. "What is this wonderful thing?" Briar Rose asked, her voice soft with fascination. The old woman kindly explained her craft, pointing to the spindle. As she gave it a brief twirl, Briar Rose watched, completely mesmerized by its dancing motion. "Oh, might I try?" Briar Rose pleaded, her eyes bright with excitement. The old woman, amused by her eagerness, nodded, beginning to show her the delicate art. Briar Rose, concentrating intently, awkwardly tried to mimic the movements. For a fleeting moment she succeeded, a thin thread forming, and a delighted, innocent laugh of accomplishment escaped her lips. But in her excitement, her hand slipped. In an instant, her finger touched the sharp, spinning tip of the spindle. A tiny, jewel-like droplet of blood welled up. The curse took immediate effect. An irresistible drowsiness clouded her blue eyes. Her laughter died, replaced by a soft, confused gasp as she tried, futilely, to fight the overwhelming magical sleep. Her strength failing, she slumped gracefully from the stool, falling onto a nearby pile of soft wool, instantly asleep, her face serene and peaceful, as if in the sweetest dream. The old woman, seeing the curse take course, vanished. Then a soft, protective blue-silver light began to emanate from the sleeping princess. The princess now slept in the dusty tower room, the heart of the enchantment. The ethereal blue-silver light expanded, beginning to seep outwards, carrying the profound sleep to the unsuspecting castle below. Like a silent, glowing river, the mist of sleep magic flowed down the winding tower stairs. At that very moment, the king and queen, relieved that the fateful morning seemed to have passed, were just re-entering the castle gate, looking forward to their daughter's birthday feast. The sleep reached the bustling kitchens first. The head cook, mid-stir, yawned and slumped by the hearth. One by one, his staff succumbed, a boy reaching for a pie, a woman kneading dough, even the little kitchen cat by the dying embers, all falling into a deep, peaceful slumber, as the blue-silver mist enveloped them. In the grand hall, courtiers preparing for the feast were similarly overtaken, and figures gracefully slumped into sleep, the once lively hall rapidly falling into an eerie, profound silence as the dreamlike mist pervaded the air. Even the stern-faced royal guards at their posts found their eyelids impossibly heavy, slumping against doorframes or walls, their weapons clattering softly as duty was overcome by the irresistible magic. The king and queen, just stepping into the entrance hall, felt the wave of weariness. The king, trying to understand, saw the queen sway, her eyes glazing over. He caught her, his own strength failing, and together they sank onto a nearby bench, joining their kingdom in a shared, profound slumber. The enchantment spared none. Stable hands and their great war horses fell asleep mid-task, royal hounds curled up in their kennels. Even the doves on the rooftops tucked their heads under their wings as the entire castle and all within its domain were stilled. The grand, empty throne room was silently filled with the swirling sleep mist, and high above, the royal banner, which had fluttered in the breeze, now hung limp and motionless. A soft, shimmering haze soon enveloped the entire castle complex, a visible dome of sleep magic, freezing it like a perfect miniature in a single moment of time. And at its heart, in the small tower room, Princess Briar Rose slept on, peacefully, as the long 100-year wait began. And so, the silent years commenced their slow march. Outside the sleeping castle, at the foot of its ancient walls, a tiny briar shoot appeared, then another, growing with unnatural speed, sending out thorny tendrils, forming a dense, tangled thicket. Year after year, the enchanted hedge grew, higher and thicker, climbing the stone walls, obscuring windows, then the main gates, eventually swallowing the lower battlements, a living, formidable green mantle wrapping itself around the slumbering world within. Soon, the castle almost vanished from sight, hidden within a colossal circular rampart of thorns. Through biting winters it stood, its dark branches frosted, and in vibrant springs it would miraculously burst into bloom with thousands of beautiful wild roses. After decades, it became a legendary landmark, a monstrous green mound from which only the faintest tips of the highest castle towers could be glimpsed. The full 100 years passed, the hedge reaching its zenith, ancient, unimaginably thick, an impenetrable mystery. Inside, time stood still. Sleeping figures remained covered in a century's undisturbed dust. Ivy crept gently over a slumbering guard, and intricate cobwebs adorned a courtier's forgotten goblet in the grand hall, poignant testaments to the long, silent enchantment. Outside this frozen domain, the world continued its relentless march. New villages grew near the forest's edge. Generations were born and passed. Other kingdoms saw new rulers crowned, their styles and customs subtly shifting with the passing decades. And as the years flowed by, the story of the Sleeping Beauty and the Thorns became a beloved whispered legend. Old storytellers would captivate children with romantic dreamlike tales of a cursed princess, a hidden castle, and an impenetrable wall of briars waiting for a fated hero. From time to time, stirred by these legends, brave princes and adventurous knights would arrive, full of youthful confidence, determined to breach the monstrous hedge. Some hacked with swords, their blades blunted against the unnaturally tough wood. Others tried fire, only to see the magical briars merely char. Some searched meticulously for a gap, but found only more thorns, their efforts ending in exhaustion and defeat before the silent, impassive barrier. Through all seasons the hedge stood, its legend growing with each failed attempt. In nearby villages, minstrels sang mournful ballads of the lost princess. As the 100th year drew to its close, an old man might show his grandson the distant rose-covered mound, recounting the ancient story one last time. And so it was, after exactly 100 years, that in a neighboring kingdom there lived a young prince, known for his kind heart, keen mind, and courageous spirit. He was skilled and disciplined, yet moved among his people with genuine affection and respect. This prince possessed not only nobility, but also a deep compassion, as shown one day when, during a hunt, he chose to spare a magnificent stag, valuing life and beauty over the thrill of the chase. His explorations eventually brought him near the borders of that ancient wild forest. There he encountered an old woodsman who, by the flickering light of a campfire, recounted the almost forgotten legend of the nearby thorn hedge, the sleeping castle, and the beautiful Princess Briar Rose, cursed to 100-year slumber. The prince listened, spellbound, his imagination filled with images of the tragic princess and the formidable barrier. While his companions might have scoffed, his heart was deeply moved by the tale, a sense of sorrow and a dawning purpose stirring within him. Warnings of past failures and insurmountable danger did not deter him. With the new dawn, a quiet, compassionate resolve settled upon his face. He knew he must go and see this Briar Rose for himself, and so he set out, riding alone into the older, denser part of the forest, the path overgrown, the air still and heavy as he approached the enchanted zone, his heart steady with a quiet courage. At last, he stood before the colossal thorn hedge. It towered over him, an impenetrable wall of ancient dark briars and vicious thorns. Remembering the woodsman's words that the 100 years were complete, he did not draw his sword, but reached out a hand, almost respectfully, acknowledging the powerful magic before him. Then, as he took a determined step forward, a miracle unfolded. A tremor ran through the ancient branches. Tightly closed rosebuds, nestled amongst the thorns, burst open with supernatural speed, unfurling into a cascade of vibrant crimson, pink, and white blooms directly before him. He watched in silent, profound awe. The thorny branches themselves, now adorned with these fragrant roses, began to slowly, gracefully draw back, parting as if by an invisible hand, weaving themselves into an inviting, arched pathway where moments before there had been only an impenetrable thicket. Through this opening, he caught his first glimpse of a sunlit, silent castle courtyard beyond. With reverence, the prince stepped into the magical, rose-lined passage. As he walked, the sweet scent of roses filled the air, and the light was soft and ethereal. Behind him, the great hedge gently wove itself closed again, as if its purpose of granting entry to the destined one was now fulfilled for this moment. The prince emerged from the passage into the bright, clear sunlight of the castle's outer courtyard, the profound stillness of a world frozen in time immediately apparent. He looked around, his heart filled with awe and sadness. The courtyard was filled with sleeping figures, guards slumped by walls, their armor dusty. He walked softly, respectfully among them. In the stables, magnificent war horses stood motionless, a stable boy asleep in the straw nearby. Even a tiny bird lay perfectly preserved on the rim of a still, dusty fountain, a poignant detail of the spell's encompassing reach. Stepping into the vast, shadowy entrance hall, he saw the sleeping king and queen, slumped together on an ornate bench, their regal attire faded and dusty, their faces peaceful, but echoing their last anxieties. He approached them with deep respect, the weight of their long slumber palpable. In the silent kitchens, cooks were frozen mid-task, a half-chopped carrot on a board, fires long dead. A magnificent, multi-tiered birthday cake intended for Briar Rose a century ago sat under a shroud of dust and cobwebs, a poignant symbol of interrupted celebration. The grand hall was a ballroom of sleepers, courtiers in faded finery slumped at tables, minstrels beside silent instruments, an unfinished letter, a half-filled goblet, a spiderweb spun delicately across it. All spoke of a world paused, of time itself held captive. In the vast, shadowy library, an elderly scholar slept over his ancient texts, dust lying thick on thousands of untouched books. The prince, with a sense of awe and sadness, gently touched one, leaving a clean mark in the century of stillness. Drawn by an unseen force, he found himself in an older, dustier corridor, where he discovered a small, ancient wooden door, almost hidden in shadow. He sensed its significance, and as he pushed it open, it creaked loudly, revealing the dark, winding stone staircase of the forgotten tower. He began his solitary ascent into the gloom, brushing aside thick cobwebs, his soft footsteps the only sound. As he climbed higher, he felt the concentration of magic growing stronger, his senses alert, his determination unwavering. At the very top, before another small ancient door veiled in cobwebs, from which a faint, soft golden rose light seemed to seep, gently, respectfully, he pushed it open. He stepped into a small, circular, dusty room, where bathed in a soft, dusty light, Sleeping as peacefully as if she had only closed her eyes moments ago was Princess Briar Rose. She was breathtakingly beautiful, her golden hair like a halo, her skin like porcelain, utterly untouched by the 100 years that had passed. The prince, his heart filled with profound awe and deep compassion, slowly knelt beside her, gazing at her perfect, peaceful face, moved by the tragedy and beauty of her long slumber, a tender resolve forming within him, understanding his role in the ancient prophecy. Then, with hesitant reverence, he leaned closer and gently, chastely, pressed his lips to her cheek, a kiss not of passion, but of compassionate awakening, the act foretold in legend. The instant his lips touched her, a soft, warm, golden rose light emanated from her. Her long, dark lashes trembled, then slowly, hesitantly began to lift, revealing clear sky-blue eyes, returning from the depths of her 100-year sleep. Her eyes, blinking in the dim light, focused with innocent curiosity on the kind face of the prince kneeling beside her. "Have I been asleep for a long time, kind sir?" she asked, her voice soft as he smiled warmly. "Indeed, princess, but now you are awake." And like a joyful tide, a wave of warm golden rose light burst from the tower room, flowing down through the castle, bringing life back with it. In the kitchens, the head cook sprang to life, demanding the birthday cake be finished. Staff awoke, resuming tasks as if no time had passed, fires roaring back, even the cat stretching and looking for milk, all amidst a miraculous restoration. The grand hall flooded with awakening light. Courtiers stretched and yawned, conversations and laughter resuming. Guards snapped to attention. And the minstrels, after a moment's shared bewilderment, launched into the most jubilant, celebratory tune. Horses neighed in the stables, hounds barked joyfully, and doves took to the sky in a fluttering cloud as the entire animal kingdom within the castle walls also awoke, vibrant with renewed life. In the entrance hall, the king and queen stirred, their eyes opening to a world reborn. Confusion turned to incredulous joy as they realized the 100-year nightmare was over. The king looked towards the castle interior, a desperate, hopeful question for his daughter in his tear-filled eyes. As the awakening light swept through, the dust of a century magically vanished, transforming the castle from a dusty relic to a vibrant, living palace in mere moments. Back in the tower room, the now fully alert and radiant Princess Briar Rose was gently helped to her feet by the prince. Together, they descended the winding stairs, the sounds of the joyfully reawakened castle growing louder with each step. A symphony of life returned. As they emerged into a main corridor, now bustling with astonished but joyful courtiers, a cry went up. "It's the princess! Princess Briar Rose! She's awake!" The news spread like wildfire, and all turned to bow and curtsy in reverent delight. The king and queen, hearing the commotion, rushed towards them. Upon seeing her daughter, alive and vibrant, the queen ran forward, crying her name, and embraced her in a hug a century in the making. The king joined them, enfolding his wife and daughter in his arms, his face buried in their hair, overcome with emotion. Briar Rose, held tight, looked from one beloved parent to the other, her own eyes shining with love and wonder. Then the king, his voice ringing with gratitude, turned to the prince, proclaiming him the hero of the prophecy, who had awakened not just his daughter, but their entire world. The prince, with humble sincerity, replied that seeing them all safe was his greatest reward, as the court burst into thunderous cheers, hailing them both. The grand hall erupted in jubilant celebration, a kingdom reborn. The prince was seated in honor beside Princess Briar Rose and the overjoyed queen, while the king toasted their happiness, laughter and music filling the vibrant hall once more. In the days that followed, a gentle affection blossomed between Princess Briar Rose and the prince. They would walk together in the castle gardens, now in full, vibrant bloom, sharing quiet conversations and soft smiles. Sometimes they would spend evenings in the royal observatory, gazing at the brilliant stars, a quiet intimacy growing under the soft moonlight. The king and queen observed this burgeoning love with heartfelt joy. Watching the young couple playfully teach each other a new dance, their laughter echoing, they exchanged a knowing, deeply satisfied smile. Their daughter's happiness and a royal union seemed beautifully destined. Thank you for letting me share my tale with you. I hope it filled your heart with a little bit of magic today. Remember to always be kind, and never forget to come back for more wonderful adventures here at Learn with TD. Goodbye, my dear friends.